Welcome to Toffee Blue View, your source for all things Everton. I am Gerry. Joining me today, I've got Terry, who I haven't seen in a while, and we've got Andy, aka El Pivote. Gentlemen, how are you today?
I'm good, man. It's good to be back on. It's nice to have a first episode with Andy as well. Been looking forward to this.
Good, yeah, good day, yeah. Busy, yeah.
Yeah, so I made the mistake of saying gentlemen, and then you did that thing where you're like, oh, are we going to answer at the same time? So from now on, I'll cue you one by one, all right, just to make it a little easier. A lot of football happening recently. Not a whole lot of Everton-based stuff, though. I will say that I think I got to watch the Copa America final on Sunday, so I got to see Richarlison do a wacky run-up and then put away a pretty fine penalty after the run-up scared the shit out of me. So yeah, I remembered. I feel like the last time I saw him take a penalty didn't work out too well, so I was holding my breath on that one. Yeah. So that was good, and then the U.S. women did well. So that's something good football related to having to do with the U.S., which I'm not used to. So thought that was kind of great. And then there's all this like political back and forth between the team and the president, and it's just like, really, what world is this?
Team on that one, really. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
That's what I'll say without getting into a whole lot of, Terry and I have these discussions often. Not on the air, but we have them off, like an hour later. We're like, wow, we've been talking politics for an hour. Great. That or movies. So, so a lot of football stuff's happening, but not a ton has been happening so far this summer as far as transfers or whatnot. We did have the recent, the friendly in Kenya. Was it in Kenya? That's where it was, right?
Karabongi Sharks, yeah.
Yeah. And I got to see part of it. Thank you whoever shares stuff on Twitter. Appreciate being able to see some of that. But yeah, and did anybody expect us to go in there and just play our strongest 11 and plow through it? I didn't.
No, it's one of those, isn't it? It's pre-season. You've got to understand half the players looked unfit. There's a lot of young lads in there. The centre back. It wasn't really good. See, I don't expect much in pre-season. As long as by the end of pre-season they all look fit, that's all I need.
Glorified training exercises, aren't they? I mean, I just wanted to just come through it and have our newest player, Andre Gomez, who's ours now, to be without an injury. I always dread those first pre-season games because they're the ones that you've got the most chance of picking up injuries with because you don't know what condition people have kept themselves in. But you can tell by looking at Andre Gomez keeps himself in pretty good condition.
Yeah, he's got a team of like 10 people working on his beard, so I'm assuming the rest of his body is just tip-top. I remember last season in the preseason, and correct me if I'm wrong here, guys, but I've heard that one of the things that Silva likes to do before preseason games is run like training sessions before the games so that, frankly, it becomes a fitness exercise even more so. You know what I mean? So I thought that if we end up looking a little bit ragged, it would make sense if I'm putting it together from last summer,
Yeah, it's like 2 days in American football. That's type of sort of training. So they use the match as an extra bit of run exercise, ball work, and yeah, I think Silva wants to get them up. I think he'll sort of not do it as much this pre-season because obviously we're much more used to what he wants, and what his standards are. Because obviously you don't want to burn out late in the season. But I think he likes to push them early in pre-season.
Nice. So yeah, that was one of those things. Like every single one of these games, I'm not expecting much. I want to see some flashes here or there. I want to look and see how the young folks are doing, and that's and hope for no injuries. And right out of the gate, Ademola Lookman pulled up with an ankle issue. We'll talk more about Lookman later because some stuff has come out today about him. So we'll go into his situation a little bit later. Anyway, just to kind of sum up how the show's going to work today, we're going to start by talking about transfer situation, wingers and forwards. depends on the system what you refer to them as. So we're not worry about that right now. But basically, we're going to talk about the different options, our winger situation, or who we actually have to choose from now, who we might be looking at, and who's already kind of bowed out of the race, so to speak. So we'll get into that in a little bit. Then we're going to talk about Joe Williams, one of those young players maybe on the cusp of being in the first team this season. So we'll talk about him. If you don't know who Joe Williams is, well, pay attention. That's all I'll say for now. And then we'll go quiz. All right, starting 11 quiz. This one is from years ago, is what I'll say. Years ago. I don't want to give too much of a hint because then these guys will get their photographic memories going and they'll already know a lineup before I start. So let's go into forward talk. Right now we're in a situation where Richarlison and Bernard, technically they're both of their best position is that left forward. Richarlison did. Oh, see, I knew you were going to get there, Terry. We'll discuss that in a minute too. But Richarlison looked good at the end of the season on the right. Additionally, he's played in the center at that center forward position, which was that what you were referring to, Terry?
No, it was on the right.
On the right, yeah. Really? Ah.
Yeah.
I figured it because I've heard some people say they think his best position's at center forward, like regardless. So yeah, see, there you go, Andy. For those of you listening, Andy raised his hand. If you couldn't hear, I heard a crack of thunder when he did that, but maybe you did not.
Yeah.
So, I think Richarlison was playing on the left for Brazil this past weekend. But basically, he's one of those. He's probably going to get into the lineup regardless. Bernard, another one, looked really good on the wing. Probably, created a lot of options for us. Who we need creators in there. That was nice. I'm trying to focus more on the outside forwards today rather than the center forwards. So I won't go into thinking about strikers we might need. Lookman. Andy, you want to talk a little bit about what's going on with Lookman as far as what has come out today?
So yeah, obviously Leipzig are obviously interested in taking him back. He had a good loan spell there a couple of years ago. He scored, I think he scored 7 goals, got a couple of assists. Did well. Ralph Ragnick, who's the sporting director, who was the manager last season, he wants him back so Nagelsmann can play him this season. I think it's probably time for Lookman to go. I'm a big fan of his. I think he's a really good player. It's just that Marco Silva obviously wants more from him in training. They sort of don't seem to be in sync with that. And with, as you say, Bernard and Richarlison sort of in place, and possibly a new winger coming in, there's not really a place for him to start. And I think he wants to play football, so I think it's time for him to probably move on. I think his attitude problems for me have been slightly overblown. I know sometimes on the pitch he can look sort of lax and things like that, but I just don't think that he's had a bit of a bad look at Everton. Sam Allardyce doesn't play young players, of course, and Ronald Koeman, we don't know what system he was going for in those that year. So at the end of the day, I think, and with Silva, as I say, he's brought 2 players in, Richarlison for a lot of money and Bernard's on a lot of wages. I think they have to be first choice. So Lookman's an unfortunate product of circumstance, if you will, despite his talent.
Terry, how you feeling about Lookman's possible or probable exit coming up pretty soon?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I mean, I do like the player, but it's an ill fit. Lookman at Everton, it seems like it always has been. We've all wanted him to do well, and a lot of the time when he hasn't done well, it's not always been his fault. I mean, Andy's touched on it there, though. I think is Lookman's best positions in the team, in his perfect world, would be either as a left forward or behind the striker, and both of those positions there's major players in front of him, so he's never going to play behind the striker because Gylfi Sigurdsson's there, and he's never going to play on the left because there's 2 players who were brought in by this manager who are ahead of him in that. We tried him on the right, he's not very effective. It's time to just cut our losses and sort of hold our hands up and go, we gave this several seasons, several managers, but the lad's just not going to. He just doesn't fit. He's an ill-fitting piece. So let's let him go. Let him, go and have his career. He did stay last season. We asked him to. He didn't really want to. And at times in the season, I did feel like he was, committed. He was trying to break into the team. It just didn't happen. So, not all's well that ends well. Hopefully, and he goes on to Leipzig and does well.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd agree. I think it's circumstances. It's really unfortunate the way he's been dropped in here. I think there's a player there, and I don't really blame him for wanting to play. I think it's just certain players that are okay with riding it out and kind of paying their dues, and there's certain players who want to play immediately. And I think there's personality benefits to both. There really are.
Can I just say as well, I think with Lookman as well, I think if you look at the players that we could possibly sell, he's one of the most who will attract interest. You can actually get a decent fee. And I think, with your Balassis and your Morellas, you're basically giving away for nothing to get the wages off the books. Whereas with Lookman, you're going to get a nice bit of money for him. You can put that towards a Malcom or whoever we're going to sign, as we'll talk about soon. But I think that's why Everton are looking to sell him. I think Silva probably says, I'm not going to probably use him as first choice next season. Brands is thinking, we've got a saleable asset, let's move him on. Similar to Onyekuru as well in that case.
And I know I was a lot more sensitive about losing players like that before I realized the type of players we'd be looking at to replace them. I'm looking at this list of players that we might be interested in. I'm pretty pleased. I know there's some of them that were probably too expensive. I get it. But at the same time, they're solid players. I'm pretty excited about this. Like, I was worried about losing Onyekuru. I was worried about losing Lookman. But at the same time now, I there's potential that we're looking at here. I just have a lot of faith in. It really comes down to Marcel Brands. I got faith. So let's talk about some of those names. Let's start. We were talking about Neres off camera a little bit. So let's talk about him to start off with. And some information came out today. So a lot of stuff dropping today about this fellow. So do you want to go into that, Andy?
Yeah, sure. Obviously, the rumour today. I think the rumour today with Ajax is Ajax wanted him to stay, so they've offered him a new contract. From what I've heard of some people, is that Everton probably were looking at him, but the price, we sort of fell down the list because of the price, because Ajax want roughly about £50 million for him, which is a lot of money for someone coming from Holland. We've seen in the past some players work from Holland, some players don't. So I think Marcel Brands will be looking at it more as someone who can hit the ground running, or certainly quicker than probably Neres would. And I think Ajax, as I said they didn't want to lose as many players. He's a good player. Didn't have a great Copa America, lost his place to Everton. Obviously not the club, the player. But yeah, he's a good player. Don't be wrong. And I would have been happy if we signed him. But I think the other people that we're looking at, I think someone such as Malcom would be much better signing for us personally.
Okay. Terry, was Neres one of those names that was kind of getting your blood pumping, getting you pretty excited when people started mentioning him? Basically, you saw those photos of Richarlison and him, playing around. You're like, Agent Richarlison, look what's happening, But was he one of those exciting names for you? Because it was for me. I know.
Yeah, he was, because I got well on the Neres hype train, and I think it became more exciting the more it seemed realistic. Like, Richarlison mentioned, he just came out and spoke about the links and that he'd spoken to the player, and tried to tell him, be good if you came and whatnot. Then you start to, as you do with any transfer for a young attacking player, you start getting excited when it seems like it could be a goer. But when you actually take a step back and you look at it coldly, I don't think it's ever really been on the cards. I can't remember Ajax very often letting these young players go after one season. They usually do two, don't they? And he's
done two, but it's just, I think that they've already sold, obviously, to De Jong. I don't imagine they want to sell many more. Maybe Ziyech will go. I'm not too sure about that. But as you say, they don't really like to sell a lot of players at once, because otherwise they're having to get a whole new team in. They want to build off last season's success.
Yeah, no, exactly. He's way down the list of people they want to sell. They'd have to get a ridiculously large offer to consider it, because of the other players they've sold. And I don't think we're in the frame of mind to be making ridiculously large offers. I think we're trying to be more economical with our money. But yeah, I was excited at the idea. But there's the other players you're going to mention now. I'm excited for some of those as well. So,
well, just to stay with you, Terry. Possibly a similar issue with another exciting player, Nicolas Pepe. Possibly same issue as far as price.
No, I don't think that's the issue. I think we'd pay it if we could get him. There's no way he's not going to a Champions League team for me. I don't think any big Champions League team, or even let's not say Champions League team. I don't think Man United, for example, would let us get a player that good when they are in the market for a right winger. I think we're just a bit unfortunate at the minute that I think he'll have bigger and better offers. Nicolas Pepe, he'd be a dream. He'd be brilliant. Out of the list of players, he's had the best season, just coming off last season. But I'm just I've put my realist hat on when it comes to Pepe. I don't think some of the bigger clubs on the market will allow us to steal a march there. There's be other suitors for him.
Well, I took something that Andy had put on Twitter, I think it was yesterday or day before, and I set you up with that question, Terry, because I knew I was going to be asking Andy the same thing. You mentioned you thought price may be an issue with him because it was a little bit early for us to be going that high. Because, I mean, what is it, the 50, 55 million, something like
50,
that?
64, yeah, that's right, yeah. To be honest, I've been watching Nicolas Pepe for 2 seasons now. Everton probably should have signed him last summer before he had this season, really. He was available for between 12 and 15 million pounds, and one great season obviously can get that price goes way high. It's not that I don't think he's worth the money, certainly, as Terry says, he's a fantastic player, scores goals, creates goals. It's just that I think with the way Everton are built, we need 4 or 5 more players. If you go big on him, you need Zuma still to come in. You've already signed Gomez. That takes the outgoing over 110 million, really, and then you still need a centre forward, maybe another centre midfielder, and maybe a right back. So I think that's why brands will be sort of looking for the under 40 mark, because you could spread it out more. You're trying to get quality and quantity as well. And that, I don't be wrong, I think Everton could afford to pay £60 million for a player, no problem. And if we were one player away from, say, winning a title or something, I think we'd pay 70, 80 million, no problem. It's just that we're not at this moment, and brands wants us to sort of get that quality, and so he's got an established side, and then he can start adding to it.
So speaking of players a little bit less expensive but pretty damn talented, let's go Malcom. So, being the Twitter stalker that I am, I stalk. It happens. Just a little light stalking. That's all it is. I tend to lurk because I worry I'm not going to add too much to Twitter conversation. Andy, you had given several hints that you thought Malcom was going to be a target for a while, and they were pretty subtle. But I saw him, and I was.
There's a lot of winks and sly smiles. Yeah. As far as logically, he makes the most sense. We've already got an existing relationship with Barcelona. He is the type of player that coming from the French league. The physicality is similar to our league, where if you look at the Eredivisie where Neres plays, it's much like the league. The physicality isn't the same. So he's more of a player that I think can hit the ground running than someone like Neres. He's a very good player. Unfortunately went to Barcelona. Lionel Messi's the right winger for Barcelona. There's not really much scope for him to play there, is there really? So, he's a very talented player. And the way we play, which is, I think there was some graphs that came out today that we are one of the quickest sides to get the ball up the pitch in the Premier League in terms of the speed of play. He is lightning fast. He can sort of, shift the up a gear and get us up the pitch earlier, and he can create and score goals. So I think he'd be a good fit, really.
Yeah, every time I've seen him, he's been exciting at the very least. Terry, you cool with Malcom and not spending the additional 20 million? You know what I mean? Like it seems like a good deal for a player like that if we can make it happen.
Yeah, I mean he'd be a great fit, I think, for what we're looking to build. He started off in my mind in the summer like Pepe. I thought there's no way we'll get him. There'll be other clubs in for him, but slowly over the summer I've sort of climbed down from that position a little bit, and I think, given the relationship the brands has developed with Barcelona, that it could happen. Barcelona obviously need money. That some of the deals they're trying to do, and we must be a dream for them. We're just turning up every few days with sacks full of Premier League cash, looking to buy players they don't play. I wish someone would do that for the likes of Aralas for us, but
I'll drive him there as well, saving the costs.
I know, but I think he'd be great. For me, he's one of the, like Anthony's one of the lower risk targets that we've been linked with, just because he's come from, was he at Bordeaux for Barcelona? Yeah, he there, puts him in a little bit better stead. I know the French league gets a hard time, but it's certainly higher quality than the Dutch league, for example. And as you say, Brands is building a team of, quality players, but on like reasonable prices. If you look at, Yuri Tillemans went to Leicester City, great player, I really like him, but 40 million, and we got Andre Gomez for half of that, and Luka Dean we got for 18 million, and I think that's Brands' MO. He's going to be looking to around that sort of 20 to 35 sort of bracket, build a foundation of a quality team, and then you can add on top of that. And then if you have to sell a young superstar for 100 million, say Richarlison in a few years maybe, then you've already got the structure in place that you can just go, right, just replace the Atletico Madrid model, if you will. Or I'm sure there was clubs before them who did it as well. But I think he's probably the most realistic at this time recording.
I'll just say, Brands basically is looking at an inefficiency in the transfer market. Big sides, got bloated squads with quality players that would be coming to teams like Everton and probably be one of our best players, in fact. So basically, he's picking them up for cheaper prices because Barcelona, like Terry said, are probably looking to get a lot of money, basically, because they've got Neymar and Griezmann on the way. So we can sort of play off that and get them in for lower prices, like we did with Dean, like we did with Andre Gomez, because we were basically the only, the ones with the strongest possible hand in the market. I think Malcom, we might have a bid from Arsenal to fend off, but I think again maybe he's more guaranteed a place with Everton than he would be at Arsenal sign.
And just to be clear, this does need to be a permanent, correct?
It does, yeah. I spoke to someone last night and basically said they couldn't get, and I've also checked it myself, that you can't get a work permit from on loan because the way it works is the fee would make up the most of the points that he would get, and without that fee, you take them points away and you come under the 4 points that you'd need to get a work permit. So yeah, it would have to be a permanent deal. Okay.
Yeah. One more player that we've heard mentioned, but I don't actually know. It doesn't seem like it would be on. Is Irving Lozano. I mention it mainly just because I've seen the player play a lot because he plays for Mexico. So I've been following him for a really long time. He was like the young, exciting player from Mexico that burned us several times, and So but it seems like PSV want like a pretty elevated price for him is and maybe more in terms of what we're willing to risk for a player from the Dutch league. It's a similar situation, except he looks even like, I would say, a little even lighter build than Neres. He looks even more slight of frame. So, and
I'm not too sure if it was. Did he play in the Gold Cup?
He did not.
Lozano, I haven't seen much. Okay, so I'm not too sure. Supposedly he's going to Napoli, but the price, as you said, that PSV want a heavy price. I think over 40 million, and I think they're trying to get that down as well, because obviously they're trying to get James Rodriguez as well from Real Madrid. But as far as I'm aware, that is the issue with Brands. He won't pay the price for Lozano. And again, it's another right-footed player, someone who probably wants to play on the left again. We've already got enough players there, so it's probably just a logjam. I know a lot of Evertonians would love to see him, but it's just not at the right time.
So if Lookman leaves, we effectively need two wingers. Does this give Josh Bowler an opportunity?
I think he's going on loan to Hull. I think it's going to be announced.
Really? I didn't know that. How have I missed that?
I think they'll sell Jarrett Bowen. Yeah, I think Jarrett Bowen will probably be sold by Hull. I'm not too sure to who. Maybe a Sheffield United, someone of that ilk. And then open up a place for him in the side. Grant McCann, sorry, is a very progressive manager, so it'd be a good loan for him. Really, he's playing the Championship week in, week out. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw several loans will probably be announced today, but I didn't realize his was one of them. Wow.
Yeah. Dow as well.
That's the one I heard about.
Yeah, the Bowler one only came out in the last hour or two, really, on Twitter. So yeah, it's pretty. I mean, Andy, you've been hoping for that for a while, just because I've seen say before that you rate the manager for development reasons. But if Lookman goes, then you've got Bernard, Richarlison, and as much as we don't want to say, and a lot of fans don't want to, I think Walcott has a place, for better or worse.
I just spaced on Walcott. Forgot he was even. Oh, that's awful. That's the worst.
He's not pushing off the bench, isn't he, late in games with that pace? I don't want to see him start 12, 15 games, but late in a game when the game's stretched, it's not a bad option to have off the bench. He can score. He gets in the right positions still. He just doesn't pull the trigger.
Plus, he's very coachable. He tends to take instruction really well and do what he's supposed to.
You need that experience as well. Yeah, you do. You need that sort of. He's probably a good influence in the sense that he probably trains hard. I think that's why Silva probably likes him.
Well, that's exactly it. We're looking to build a very, very young, progressive team. Then, some of the older, players around don't necessarily have to be like big name voices in the dressing room, but they need to be good examples. And, from everything we've heard, Walcott is like the model citizen, isn't he? Like, he trains really well and he's very professional. And, he the same as when he was at Arsenal, he does dip off in form, but he's not one of these I think it'd be harsh to describe him as dead wood. Kevin Morales, again, is dead wood. Players who literally cannot offer anything to the team. Walcott, over a season, can offer something. But if you've got 3 better wide forwards, then obviously he's the 4th man. And he's older, so it's not like we sell Walcott and keep Lookman, and then your 4th choice is another kid who doesn't play. Walcott's developed to the point he's going to develop to now, so he is a good player to have as cover for young players. You don't want everyone to be young, because then only half of them develop, basically.
You also, obviously we'll have probably the 4 wingers, and then you've got Anthony Gordon, who'll probably be on the under-23s this year. If needed, he can sit on the bench for whatever reason. I think we'll be fine at wing. Obviously we've got Leighton Baines as well. He'll be coming in as well. So Leighton Baines can play further forward if need be in a pinch. So I think we've got the wing covered. I don't think if we saw Lookman would be short. I think just the one wing would do.
That's one of the things I'd seen people mentioning. Do we need 2? So. Very probable we'll roll with 1, whoever that might be. Very well might be Malcom. All right, so we'll see. Fingers crossed. Yeah, we continue this Everlona trend. Yeah, totally down with that relationship. Very down with that.
Yeah, they keep getting good players off them. They can sign all the players they want, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, well,
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I think that there does seem to be a trend now in terms of like the thinking at the club where I think as we go, these players like Idrissa Gueye, who seemingly want to go, if we can get a decent price for them and get a good deal on them, which I think we probably will with him, we're going to hate to see him go, and he's a valuable piece, but we're just so used to wanting to hang on to those pieces for as long as we can. But I just feel like it's a different world now in terms of what Everton are,
Yeah, Gueye's the things. I think either he's going to turn 30 soon, or he is 30. If you say we kept him for a year, you sort of dwindle in your price. I'm not saying we should sell him, only if he wants to go and there's a good price. When should we sell him? We shouldn't actively look to sell him. And if Paris Saint-Germain come in, I can't see why we wouldn't sell him. It's a great opportunity for him. He is getting up there in age. We should probably let him go as long as we've got a replacement ready. I think we probably have, because I think Marcel Brands thinks he is in the future anyway. So as long as that happens, but if Gueye wants to go, so be it. I think whereas in the past we'd be scrambling looking for another player to replace him. I think Brands has probably already got a list of Gueye replacements ready. So it's in his hands, really. I'm trying to imagine
Marcel Brands scrambling anywhere. He's just so like calm and chill and
floats there.
Just like a rock, that guy. All right. So I guess that's anything else we want to add? Wingers, forwards, that situation?
No, Bertrand Traore's been.
That was the other player I wanted to mention. Well. Yes.
Yeah, I know a lot of. He can be inconsistent, but again, there was an interview with Silva a couple of weeks ago in Portugal where he described his sort of ideal style of wingers. One being Bernard, who gets close to Sigurdsson, who outside of the box and is looking to create, and the other being someone like Richarlison, who gets in the box and sort of adding the goals. So I think a Traore will be a similar type to a Richarlison, whereas a Malcom. Again, so you can play both roles where you can get in the box, but you can also sort of create as well. So I think that's the type they're looking for, really.
Yeah, Traore is one of those where I was not as excited, but I do think he has potential to add to the squad. I think there's a player there. It just depends on what your squad needs, and I wasn't sure about him, but.
Yeah, he's a good player. He's played the Premiership before, so I think that's a consideration as well. Again, because it's always a risk when you adapt into the Premier League, and with him already playing 10 games plus for Chelsea, he knows what it's like. So I think that's a consideration for Brands, really.
All right, so I guess that's it. Talk about the Everton forward situation. Maybe see somebody coming in sometime this summer. Yeah, probably, and we may see some go. So. All right, so if you've been digging the videos, please subscribe to the Toffee Blues YouTube channel. We sincerely appreciate it. If you want more Terry, there's no Liverpool Echo fan jury for the rest of the summer, I don't think. So you're going to have to wait till the season gets close to starting before that happens. But, you could just see him on the street and hug him, okay? See, he's down with that. All right, the touch, the feel of Terry. So also, if you want more, I just turned you into a cotton commercial. And as far as if you want more Andy, his blog is El Pivote. Is it FTBL? Yes. Yeah,
yes,
that's his blog. All right, so you can find there's just a lot of good stuff there, and check both these guys' Twitter accounts because they just have a lot of stuff that they put on there, and it's all good. So that's all I got. We're gonna move on, talk a little bit about Joe Williams. Yeah. All right. Bye.